Jaina Agama Gyan. Anga Agamas, Acharanga Agama.
इमेण चेव जुज्जाहि किं ते जुज्झेण वज्झो जुद्धारिहं खलु दुर्लभं जहेत्त कुशलेहिं परिण्णाविवेगे भासिये.
Acharanga Sutra. Acharanga Agama Shastra Sutra, Book 1, 5th lecture, Essence of the World, Lokasara. Jambu Swamin was the disciple of Sudharma Swami, one of the 11 chief disciples, Ganadharas of Mahavira. Sudharma Swami heard the discourse from the Venerable Mahavira and narrated to his disciple Jambu Swamin. First lesson. The name of the 5th chapter of Acharanga Sutra is Lokasara. In context of nomenclature, structure and other parameters, there are various different meanings of the word Loka. Here it refers to the specific area measuring 14 Raju, a linear unit defined as the distance covered by a god flying non-stop for 6 months at a speed of 20,57,152 yojanas per second, and the beings living there. The word Sara also has many meanings: result, essence, fundamental, entire or whole, solid, preeminence, meaningful. The commentator Niryukti has raised a question about the essence of the Loka. So, what is the essence of this world? And what again is the ultimate essence of that essence? In answer, the Acharya says the essence of the world is Dharma. The essence of Dharma is knowledge. The essence of knowledge is discipline, and the essence of discipline is Nirvana or liberation. According to the said elaboration, the meaning of the title of the chapter, Lokasara, is contemplation and elaboration of liberation and other core fundamentals of world of being. A seeker may be inspired towards the essence of this world, ultimate soul, soul and liberation. He may properly understand the true form of the contradictory factors like inflow of karmas, bondage of karmas, indiscipline and false perception. Fully understanding the consequences of these contradictory factors, he may avoid them. This is the theme of this chapter. This chapter has 6 lessons. The first lesson contains discussion about libido or the pursuit going against liberation and its root causes like ignorance, fondness, attachment and aversion, and means of prevention thereof. In the second lesson, a Muni ascetic has been defined as alert and devoid of attachment. In the third lesson is the message of being detached and apathetic towards carnal pleasures in context of ascetic conduct. The fourth lesson contains the faults and harm related to solitary living of an immature ascetic. The fifth lesson contains the description of the greatness of an acharya, true faith, attitude of separating right from wrong, ahimsa and so. The sixth lesson contains the directions about abandoning false perception, attachment, aversion, and the description of the form of a liberated soul. Sudharman Swami continued with Jambu Swamin and said, many entertain cruel thoughts against the world with a motive or without one. They entertain cruel thoughts against these 6 classes of living beings. To him, human being, pleasure are dear. Therefore, he is near death. Because he is near death, he is far from liberation. But he who is neither near death nor far from liberation considers the life of a slow and ignorant fool are similar to a dewdrop trembling on the sharp point of the blade of kusa grass, which falls down when shaken by the wind. A fool doing cruel acts comes thereby ignorantly to grief. Through delusion he is born, dies, being conversant with the liberation. About this delusion, one is conversant with the samsara. Being not conversant with that liberation, one is not conversant with the samsara. He who is clever should not seek after sexual intercourse, but having done so, a second folly of the weak-minded not to own it. Repenting and excluding the begotten pleasures, one should instruct others to follow the commandment. Thus I say, said Sudharman Swami. Libido, causes of prevention. In the Sutra 148, Sudhara Swami said, many of the humans in this world kill beings for or without purpose. They keep on getting reborn in various species of those same 6 life forms. Their mundane desires are lofty. Because of these lofty desires, they remain in proximity of death. When they are near death or desire, they are away from liberation or detachment. As he is not free of desires, he is neither near the mundane pleasures nor far from them. See, many who desire colors are led around in the samsara. They experience here again and again feelings of punishment. Many live by injurious deeds against the world. They live by injurious deeds against these living beings. Also the fool, suffering for his passion, delights in bad acts here, mistaking that for salvation which is none. Many lead the life of a hermit in order to avoid worldly sorrows and pain. Elaboration, showing the worthless nature of worldly pleasures and violence and other sinful activities performed in order to avail those. This lesson inspires one to refrain from sinful activity done out of ignorance and fondness. In this aphorism, the term Vipura Musanti has been used twice. In the first instance, the meaning is driven by mundane desires or inflamed passions who destroys being belonging to 6 life forms. In the second instance, in varied a context, the meaning is those who destroy those 6 life forms in many ways are reborn, after tormenting them many a times in those same 6 life forms. Ateya, Anteya. Artha means purpose or reason. There are 3 reasons for destroying beings: carnal desires, wealth and religion. Killing or tormenting others for obtaining means of carnal pleasures is kamaratak, himsa, violence for the sake of our carnal pleasures. Killing or tormenting others for trading, agriculture and other business activities is ardha tarak, himsa, violence for the sake of wealth. Killing or tormenting others in name of religion is dharma tarak, himsa, violence for the sake of religion. These 3 types of violence are called with purpose and others without any purpose. Guru Sekama, explaining this, it is said that mundane or carnal pleasures are difficult to renounce. Therefore, such desires are called guru, heavy or enormous. Jao se marasa anto. A pleasure-seeking man cannot rid himself of carnal desire. Thus he is within the grip of death. As a result, he is always haunted by things like birth, aging, death, disease, grief, and therefore he is far removed from happiness. In the Sutra 149, he who has rid himself of desire perceives and knows that life is as ephemeral as a drop of water falling from the tip of a grass leaf shaken by a whiff of wind. Life of an ignorant and dumb person who is unaware of religion is also fleeting, but he fails to know this due to attachment. That fool, out of ignorance, indulges in violence and other cruel activities and invites grief. Disturbed by this grief, he ends up in misery instead of happiness. Under the influence of attachment, a being invites bondage of karmas and as a consequence embraces birth and death again and again. Because of mithyattva, he is infested with fondness time and again. Such a man has much wrath, much pride, much conceit, much greed. He delights in many works, acts frequently like a stage player or a rogue, forms many plans, gives way to his impulses, is influenced by his acts, though he pretends to be awakened, thinking that nobody will see him. Through the influence of ignorance and carelessness, the fool never knows the Lord. Men, unhappy creatures worldwide, are those who, not freeing themselves from ignorance, talk about final liberation. They return round and round in the whirlpool. Thus says Dharman continued. In this aphorism, three adjectives are used to show the state of mind of a person under influence of fondness. Bal, like childlike, a child does not have knowledge of the reality. Same is the condition of a man driven by carnal desire. He also takes the fleeting life to be non-aging and eternal. This is his childish ignorance. Mand, dumb, because of absence of wisdom, he is called dumb. Avijan, unaware, as he is ignorant about liberation, he is called unaware. Doubt leading to truth. In the Sutra 150, one who knows doubt also knows the form of the world. One who does not know doubt also does not know the form of the world. A person who is accomplished or who has conquered senses does not indulge in mundane pleasures. He who indulges in mundane pleasures commits another foolishness when he still conceals that by stating, I do not know. When one gets an opportunity to enjoy carnal pleasures, he should avoid it by thinking that this is an alien feeling, and he should also inspire others to avoid such indulgence. So I say, O aspirant, observe those who are infatuated with form and other such attributes. They are drawn towards mundane pleasure. They end up in miseries over and over. Elaboration. This aphorism shows doubt to be the inspiring cause of knowledge. Normally, doubt is born out of ignorance, but when it is accompanied by the desire to gain knowledge, it also becomes inspiring cause of knowledge. A doubt that becomes root of curiosity enhances knowledge of man. Bhagavati Sutra contains answers to 36,000 such curiosity inspiring doubts. When curiosity arises out of the doubt, then only through jnana prajna, awareness of the receptivity for knowledge, one acquires true knowledge of the ephemeral nature of this world, and through pratyakshyan parigna, one proceeds to renounce it. He who does not have this doubt-filled curiosity about the world or rebirth does not become aware of the ephemeral nature of the world and fleeting nature of life. Consequently, he does not get liberated from this world. Biya Madan Mandasa Valya. This phrase shows that the first foolishness of a seeker is that he is furtively engaged in carnal activity, and the second that he pretends to be innocent when asked by the teacher or other seniors. This is compounding the fault of libido by a lie. The insinuation is that if one commits a fault due to stupor or ignorance, he should accept it with honesty. Itha phase puno puno. This aphorism indicates that due to attachment, one has to suffer misery time and again. For example, driven by attachment, a man accumulates things and starts worrying about protecting them. He is aggrieved when he loses them. He suffers pain of unsatiated desire. This pain turns into craving and then to further acquisition or grabbing. Thus he is caught into a vicious circle of miseries. Avoiding passions. In the Sutra 151, all the people in this world who indulge in sinful activities do so only because they are infatuated with these mundane pleasures. Even while following this ascetic way of life, an ignorant seeker, agitated by the craving for mundane pleasures due to an upsurge of lust, considers unfavorable as favorable and indulges in sinful activities. Sutra 152. In this world, some aspirants start living in solitude. Such a person is made dumb by ignorance and stupor, and he fails to know religion if he is very irritable, proud, deceitful, greedy, attached with mundane pleasures, an impostor, cunning, conspiring, involved with inflow of karmas and enveloped in karmas, declares, I have also resolved to follow the religious conduct, and futilely indulges in misconduct with the apprehension someone could see me sinning. O man, professing that ignorance leads to liberation, persons who are tormented by mundane pleasures and passions, good at accumulating karmic bondage, not free of karmic inflow, continue to will around in the will pole that is this world. So I say. Elaboration. For an aspirant, solitary way of life is good as well as bad. Solitude is also of two types, physical and mental. Physical solitude, it is good when solitary way of life is accepted for some important mission or practices assigned by an ascetic indulging in higher practices. Pratimadhari, Jinakalpi, ascetic who indulges in loftiest practices are the Sangh religious organization. Solitary life accepted under the influence of mundane cravings, extreme selfishness, or inflamed passions is bad solitude. Mental solitude is accomplished only when one is devoid of any attachment and aversion. This is the way of solitary life of the Tirthankars and other such pure souls. Uttivad. To pretend, some seekers pretend, I have accepted the solitary way because other ascetics are lax in their conduct and I am very strict. So, can I live with them? Such statements are not reliable.
यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं च यद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव महावीर नमोऽस्तु ते।
Jaina Agama Gyan. Anga Agamas, Acharanga Agama.
इमेण चैव जुज्जाहि किं ते जुज्झेण वज्झो जुद्धारिहं खलु दुर्लभं यहेत्त कुशलेहिं परिन्नाविवेगे भासिये।
Acharanga Sutra. Acharanga Agama Shastra Sutra, Book 1, 5th lecture, Essence of the World, Lokasara. Jambu Swamin was the disciple of Sudharma Swami, one of the 11 chief disciples, Ganadharas of Mahavira. Sudharma Swami heard the discourse from the Venerable Mahavira and narrated to his disciple Jambu Swamin. Second lesson. Sudarman continued. The path of alertness. In the Sutra 153, Sudarman said, in this world, people who are anarbhijivi, who do not indulge in sinful activities, remain away from mundane pleasures and are alert. That is why they are called anarbhijivi. One who is free of this arambha have realized while practicing avoidance of arambha that it is a sandhi, opportunity. This is the present right moment for the body. He who contemplates thus always remains alert. The noble have shown this path of alertness. After launching the practices for liberation, one should avoid stupor. Every being has its own happiness and sorrow. Knowing this, one should avoid stupor. In this world, different people have different purposes. Therefore, their miseries are also different. So say the Tirthankaras. That aspirant should not harm any being, should not call the beings otherwise. He should not waver in face of affliction and torment, and should tolerate them with equanimity. He is called preeminent in equanimity. Elaboration. An aspirant avoiding sinful activities should consider the period of practices to be a sandhi. There are numerous meanings of the word sandhi. Acharya Sri Atmaram Ji translates sandhi as an opportunity. Acharya Mahaprajna indicates that here sandhi means the centers of consciousness in the body. According to Acharya Malishain, the parts of the body where there is a higher density of soul section are known as vital spots. The centers of consciousness are within these vital spots. Focusing attention on these spots boosts the practice of alertness. I am Khane Titi. This is the present moment. This phrase is also believed to be related to meditation. One who contemplates about the body at the present moment is in fact focusing his attention on the changes the body undergoes every moment. This strengthens the realization about the transitory nature of the body, and consequently the attachment for it gets weak. Many do not live by injurious deeds against the world. They do not live by injurious deeds against these living beings. Ceasing from them, making an end of them, he perceives this is a favorable opportunity. He who searches for the right moment for this body, this is the road taught by the noble ones. When he has become jealous for the law, and he becomes jealous for the law, he should never be careless. Knowing pain and pleasure in their various forms, men act here on their own motives. It has been declared that they suffer for their own sins, neither killing nor lying. He should patiently bear all unpleasant feelings when affected by them. That man is called a true monk. Those who are not given to sinful acts are attacked by calamities, but then the steadfast will bear them. He has to bear them afterwards, as he has done before his conversation and conversion. The body is of a fragile, decaying nature. It is unstable, transient, eternal, increasing and decreasing, of a changeable nature. Perceive this as its true character. For him who well understands this, who delights in the unique refuse, right knowledge, right intuition, right conduct, for the liberated and inactive, there is no passage from birth to death. Thus I say. In 154th Sutra, Sudarma Swami said, the seeker who is apathetic towards sinful activities can possibly be tormented by terror like a fatal disease. The composed Tirthankara Mahavir said that under such circumstances he should tolerate with equanimity those afflictions. It is certain that this enchanting body will be abandoned sooner or later. This body is of transitory and destructible nature. It is impermanent, unstable, non-eternal. it continues to wax and wane, to undergo a variety of transformations is its nature. Observe this form, nature of the body. He who properly visualizes this form, nature of this body, who dwells in the dimension that is soul, who is free of any fondness and refrains from violence, does not wander in the world's cycles of rebirth. So I say, said Sudarman Swami to Jambu Swami. Nati Mayagi Virayas, the detached have no path. This phrase conveys that an ascetic who has blocked the sources of inflow of karmas, such as violence, have no other path. This can be interpreted three ways. As a result of deep contemplation on various types of pious or good feelings, for an aspirant who is free of any attachment for the body and other mundane things, the path leading to hell or birth as an animal is closed. As he sheds all the karmas during that specific birth, for him all the paths leading to four types of rebirth are closed. Birth, aging, ailment, and death are the four main paths leading to misery. For a detached and alert seeker, these paths are closed. Here the first and the third meanings refer to an ordinary or chadmast ascetic. For an omniscient who has shed all the karmas, the second meaning holds true. Thus the detached and alert aspirant gets liberated from the cycles of rebirth. Many are attached to something in the world, be it little or much, small or great, sentient or non-sentient. They are attached to it here amongst these householders. Thus some incur great danger. For him who contemplates the course of the world and does not acknowledge these attachments, there is no such danger. Knowing that that which is well understood is well practiced, man, with thy eyes on the highest good, be victorious. Among such men only is real Brahmanhood. Thus I say. Inspiration to renounce possessions. In the Sutra 155, in this world, all those who are acquisitive collect little or more, minute or gross, and living or non-living things. They are acquisitive due to their fondness for these things. This avarice is the cause of great fear for them. Aspirants observe the wealth of these indisciplined. He who does not know these attachments suffers great fear. Elaboration. Ishtasu cheva parigraha vanti. They are acquisitive of these. Explaining this phrase, the commentator Vritti says, irrespective of the possession being little or more, living disciples or non-living scriptures, books, dresses, pots, areas, glory and fame, and cheap or costly, if the aspirant has a little or excessive fondness or attachment for any of the said things, he is counted among the householders having acquisitiveness even when he is an ascetic observing great oaths. I have heard this, and it is in my innermost heart, and the freedom from bonds is in your innermost heart. He who has ceased to have worldly attachment, the houseless suffers with patience a long time. The careless stand outside, the careful lead a religious life. Maintain rightly this state of sage. Thus I say, Sudarman continue. Yata Devi Jaisim Mahabhavyam Bhavati. This is the cause of great fear for them. In this phrase, the word egoism points at those few seekers who nurture fondness for their equipment and disciples, or are in any way connected with acquisition of things even after accepting the oath of non-possession. A householder is always apprehensive of security, so he is an aspirant having fondness for things. Therefore, possession is called a great fear. If you want to experience this, observe the conduct or mental state of the avaricious people and see how they are constantly haunted by the worries and fears. Logavittam, worldly circle or field. One meaning of this term is painful social life of the masses. Another meaning is mundane awareness. Food, fear, compulsion, and acquisitiveness are manifestations of mundane awareness. This should be considered as fear and avoided. Sutra 156. Sudharma Swami says, it is properly known and has been properly explained. Knowing this, O ultimate visionary, you should make endeavor. Only they are celibate. So I say, I have heard, I have experienced that bondage and liberation exist only in your soul. In the Sutra 157, Sudharma Swami said the detached ascetic should tolerate afflictions till the long night. Those who are not alert should be considered as out of the ascetic religion. Be alert and move around. Properly follow this ascetic religion. So I say, Suvayanyam ti nacha. In the commentary Churni, there is an alternative reading, Sutta. It means that it has been presented by the Ganadharas after contemplation according to the original text. Knowing this, in the commentary Churni, we find Ajita Hittitam in place of Ajatham, and the meaning given is pondering, thought, or contemplated. In other words, it has been thought over, pondered over, and contemplated over. Ishtasu cheva bhambhachare. Only they are celebrate. Only he who renounces possessions is able to practice celibacy. The Acharyas have given three meanings of the term brahmacharya: to dwell in the self, celibacy, and living in Gurukul, a type of boarding school. One who has liking or attachment for things cannot dwell in the self. Such person can neither exercise control over sense organs nor can he live under the discipline of a teacher. Therefore, it is indicated here that the capability of observing brahmacharya only comes by renouncing possessions. Another reason for this concept could be that in the order established by Bhagwan Parshvanath, a fourfold path combining apagriha with brahmacharya was propagated. Therefore, it is believed that there is an essential relationship between the two. Param Chakku, ultimate eyes. This has two meanings. He who has the ultimate knowledge, he who only sees the ultimate state or liberation.
यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं च यद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव महावीर नमोऽस्तु ते।
जैन आगमा ज्ञान. अंग आगमास, अचरंग आगमा.
इमेण चैव जुज्जाहि किं ते जुज्झेण वज्झो जुद्धारिहं खलु दुर्लभं यहेत्त कुशलेहिं परिन्नाविवेगे भासिये।
अचरंग सूत्र. अचरंग आगमा शास्त्र सूत्र, book 1, 5th lecture, essence of the world, Lokasara. Jambu Swamin was the disciple of Sudharma Swami, one of the 11 chief disciples, Ganadharas of Mahavira. Sudharma Swami heard the discourse from the Venerable Mahavira and narrated to his disciple Jambu Swamin. Third lesson. Sudharman continued. Inspiration for ascetic religion. In the Sutra 158, all the detached aspirants in this world are called detached because of the absence of fondness for these things. The Aryas, Tirthankaras have said that religion exists in equanimity. Hearing these words from the Pandits, Acharyas, the wise should ponder over that. Bhagavan Mahavir said, the combined practice of knowledge, perception and conduct, I did it difficult for others to follow. Therefore, I say, do not conceal your energy in practices leading to liberation. The commentary Vritti has given two meanings of the phrase Samyayi Dhame Ariham Paviye. The Aryas, Tirthankaras have said the religion to be in equanimity. Bhagwan has propagated religion with equanimity, impartiality. Among the nobles like Desharya from a noble country, Bhashacharya having noble language, and Charitra noble in conduct. Many are not attached to something in this world. They are not attached to it among these householders. He is a wise man who has heard and understood the word of the learned ones. Without partiality, the law has been declared by the noble ones. As I have destroyed here the connection with the world, so is the connection elsewhere difficult to destroy. Therefore, I say, one should not abandon firmness. Some who early exert themselves do not afterwards slide back. Some who early exert themselves afterwards slide back. Those who do not early exert themselves not slide back. That man also is of this description. Sila is another Samayan, controlled with its 18,000 subdivisions, or it consists of the 5 great woes, the 3 guptis, the restraints of the senses, the avoidance of sin, who knowing the world as worthless nevertheless follows it ways. Knowing this, it has been declared by the sage, here the follower of the commandment, the wise, the passionless, he who exerts himself before morning and after evening, always contemplating virtue and hearing the merit of it, will become free from love and delusion. Fight with this your body. Why should you fight with anything else? Difficult to attain to this human body which is worth the fight. For the clever ones have praised the disconcernment of wisdom. The fool who falls from it is liable to birth. In this religion of the Jainas, the cause of the fool's fall has been declared to depend on color and killing. But a sage who walks the beaten track to liberation regards the world in a different way. Knowing thus the nature of acts in all regards, he does not kill, he controls himself. He is not overbearing. Color stands for all perceptions of senses. Of course, the attachment to sensual pleasures is meant. 3 types of aspirants. Sutra 159. Seekers are the 3 types. Some seeker first prepares himself for the path of religious practices and then all the life he continues to rise and never falls. Some seeker first rises and then falls. Some seekers are such that neither they rise first nor do they all fall afterwards. The ascetic who renounces the world and then again takes refuge in it becomes likewise. Knowing this rise and fall of attitudes, the king of ascetics has said the Pandit should have affinity for the order. He should be away from fondness. During the first and the last quarters of the night, he should be careful. He should be ever steadfast in following the codes of conduct. Hearing about the fruits of good conduct, he should abandon carnal desires and greed. Elaboration. There are differences or grades in the attitudes of all beings. Keeping this fact in mind, 3 types of aspirants have been shown here. Some aspirant renounces mundane life with a strong lion-like attitude, and all his life remains stable with the same attitude of detachment. He rises first and does not fall later. Examples of this type are Ganadharas, Dhana, and Shalibhadra. Some aspirant renounces mundane life with a strong lion like attitude but later acquires a weak jackal like attitude. This is the second type, rises first and falls later. Some examples of this type are Nandishen and Kundari, who accepted initiation with great enthusiasm and detachment, but later, due to influence of Mohaniya karma, became lax in discipline and fell from grace. The commentator has given two more types. Some aspirants in the first instance does not get initiated and later loses right faith also. As an example, one can take an indoctrinated Shravak who does not advance enough to get initiated as an ascetic and loses right faith also when is in trouble. The fourth type is of a person who neither rises at first nor falls later. Examples of this type are ignorant hermits who are not ready to get initiated in the ascetic order. Where is the question of a fall when they did not rise at all? The following points have been indicated for gaining stability in ascetic conduct. The seeker should strive for their tenets. He should have faith in the tenets of the Tirthankaras and the knowledge contained in the Agamas propagated by them. He should be a Pandit or should have the capacity to discern between right and wrong. He should be free of any attachment. He should devote the first and the last quarters of night to religious activities, should be alert in studies and meditation. He should be sincere in right conduct. This has four categories: observing great vows, maintaining stability in discipline of mind, speech and body, disciplining the five senses organs, and controlling four passions including anger. He should listen to the ultimate fundamental, which is the essence of this world, and be free of lust, desires, and greed. He should become free of any inner agitations, deceit, and quarrel. With the help of all these various methods, an ascetic should continue to progress on his path. Inner struggle. In the Sutra 160, you should fight with this, the karmic body, only. What will you gain by fighting others? The means to fight are certainly scarce. Bhagavan has told about the knowledge and discerning attitude related to a fight. An ignorant who has drifted away from the religious path wanders in wombs. Here in this order of the Jina, it is said, he who is infatuated with form and violence drifts away from the religious path. The ascetic who looks at the world otherwise remains steadfast on the path of liberation. Comprehending that pleasure and pain are individual, advising kindness, he will not engage in any work in the whole world, keeping before him the one great aim, liberation, and not turning aside, living humbly, unattached to any creature. The rich in control, who with a mind endowed with all penetration, that a bad deed should not be done, will not go after it. What you acknowledge as righteousness, that you acknowledge as sagedom. What you acknowledge as sagedom, that you acknowledge as righteousness. It is inconsistent with weak, sinning, sensual, ill-conducted house inhabiting men. A sage acquiring sagedom should subdue his body. The heroes who look at everything with indifference use mean and rough. Such a man is said to have crossed the foot, to be a sage, to have passed over, to be liberated, to have ceased from acts. Thus I say, Sudharman continued. These aphorisms contain advice to shift from outer fights to inner fights. Bhagavan says, son, you have to indulge in inner struggle and not the outer one. You have to fight with the gross body and the karmas. This Audarik Sharir craves for pleasure. It has become reckless and makes you dance to its tunes. Fight with it. Also fight with the karmic body that enslaves you with the help of lust and other such attitudes. You have to weaken the karmas through inner struggle with the karmic body and the gross body. At some places we find Judhariyam, Acha, Dhulam instead of Judhariham. According to the commentator Vritti, this means fight is of two types, not noble and noble. To fight with weapons and other such equipment is not noble. To fight against inner enemies like afflictions is noble and it is difficult. Therefore, have a noble fight with affliction. To try to win over hunger, thirst, pleasure, comfort is struggle with the body. To try to win over fondness, passions is struggle with the karmas. Awareness or knowledge and vivek are the two weapons for inner struggle. Awareness leads to knowledge about a thing and vivek leads to a strong desire of separation or riddance from it. An ascetic wins over attachment and aversion with the help of knowledge and vivek. Vivek is of many types. For example, to think about variance or distinct existence with respect to wealth, family, body, sense organs, mind is called parigraha vivek. To have a strong feeling about the distinct existence of soul with respect to karmas, karma viveka, discerning attitude about karma, and to consider soul separate from feeling is bhava vivek, discerning attitude about feeling. Sutra 161, thus perfectly knowing the form of karma, he does not indulge in violence. He follows the conduct of discipline and avoids insolence or a conduct devoid of vivek. An aspirant should think that every being has its own pleasures. He should not commit violence against anything with the desire of fame in this world. An ascetic should progress singularly, looking at the goal of liberation. He should cross over all diverse directions, pathways. He should move with detachment and he should have no attraction for women. A disciplined ascetic should refrain from exploring sinful activities, considering them with his all-enveloping sagacity to be prescribed. Oneness of Samyaktva and asceticism. In the Sutra 162, he who sees Samyaktva sees asceticism. He who sees asceticism also sees Samyaktva. The practice of this asceticism is not possible for those who are lax, soft or timid, infatuated with the sensual pleasure, deceitful, lethargic and householder. An ascetic should acquire silence and vibrate his karmic body. The brave who are aware of equanimity eat stale and dry, tasteless food. The ascetic who crosses the flow of life and death is called Tiran, one who has crossed, liberated and uninvolved. In this aphorism, two words need special attention. The word samyak includes right perception, right knowledge and right conduct. Maun means asceticism or the state of being an ascetic. In fact, where there is right perception, asceticism is inevitable and vice versa.
यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं च यद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव महावीर नमोऽस्तु ते.
जैन आगमा ज्ञान. अंग आगमास, अचरंग आगमा.
इमेण चैव जुज्जाहि किं ते जुज्झेण वज्झो जुद्धारिहं खलु दुर्लभं यहेत्त कुशलेहिं परिन्नाविवेगे भासिये.
अचरंग सूत्र. अचरंग आगमा शास्त्र सूत्र, book 1, 5th lecture, essence of the world, Lokasara. Jambu Swamin was the disciple of Sudharma Swami, one of the 11 chief disciples, Ganadharas of Mahavira. Sudharma Swami heard the discourse from the Venerable Mahavira and narrated to his disciple Jambu Swamin. Fourth lesson. Sudharman continued. Vivek of living in isolation. In the Sutra 163, Sudharma Swami said, the solitary movement of an ascetic who furtively, prematurely wanders from one village to another is fraught with disturbances and is foolhardy. An immature person gets irritated when he hears even slightly unpleasant words. Moving alone, he is deluded with the pride of considering himself to be the best. He is repeatedly tormented by afflictions and disease. An ignorant and apostate cannot cross those hurdles. I will futilely lead a solitary life. Such thought should never cross your mind. This is the philosophy of the accomplished Mahavir. A mature aspirant should have single-minded attention on that philosophy of the detached Mahavir. He should get engrossed in the path propagated by him. He should move about keeping only that before him. He should always remember that. He should live completely engulfed by it. An ascetic should be careful in his movement. He should focus his attention only on movement. He should move seeing the path cautiously every moment. When he sees animals and creatures, he should stop advancing his steps and while moving avoid the beings coming in his path. That wise person should indulge in all the activities including going, returning, constructing and spreading limbs only after composing himself, getting rid of all the bad attitude and cleansing properly with the help of the ascetic broom. Prescribing the solitary movement of an immature and ignorant ascetic, the commentator Vritti has defined two types of avyakta, immature, of immature spiritual knowledge and of immature age. The ascetic who has not studied the text and the meaning of the Achara Prakalpa, that is Nishit Sutra, is of immature scriptural knowledge. One who is under 16 years of age is of immature age. This aphorism provides four important combinations of these two conditions. Some ascetics are of immature scriptural knowledge as well as immature age. Some are of immature scriptural knowledge but of mature age. Some are of mature scriptural knowledge but of immature age. All these three combinations do not qualify for solitary movement. For a monk who has not yet reached discrimination, it is bad going and difficult proceeding when he wanders alone from village to village. Some men, when going wrong, will become angry when exhorted with speech, and a man with very pride is embraced with great delusion. There are many obstacles which are very difficult to overcome for the ignorant and the blinded. Let that not be your case. That is the doctrine of the clever one, Mahavira. Adopting the Acharya's view, imitating his indifference for the outer world, making him the guide and advisor in all one's matter, sharing his abode, living carefully, acting accordingly to his mind, examining one's way, not coming too near the Acharya, minding living beings one should go on one's business. A monk should, according to the Acharya's order, go and return, contract or stretch his limbs, thoroughly clean what ought to be cleansed. Sometimes, though a monk be endowed with virtue and walks in righteousness, living beings coming in contact with his body will be killed. If this happens through mere carelessness, then he will get his punishment in this life. But if it was done contrary to the rules, he should repent of it and do penance for it. Thus he who knows the sacred lore recommends penance combined with carefulness. Some aspirants are mature within scriptural knowledge and age. Even they can opt for solitary movement only for some special purpose, and that too after accepting pratima, social codes and resolutions for an ascetic. They too are not allowed to lead a solitary life without some special purpose. Solitary life is fraught with possibilities of many falls in contact. If such ascetic suddenly suffers from stomach problems or other such ailments, there are possibilities of abuse of soul, discipline and preaching, thereby inviting disgrace for the religious organization. The commentator Vritti Acharya says that there is a very wide scope for false and solitary movement of an immature seeker. If some person irritates him or uses bad language, there are chances of his getting excited to the extent of abusing or even physically confronting the adversary. There are possibilities of being allured by women of doubtful character in villages. He may even be assaulted by stray dogs. Adversary may even conspire to mislead him and go against ascetic codes, as said in the quoted verse. An immature ascetic, being inexperienced in practices of ascetic discipline, is unable to stick to the codes in difficult situations. This is because the proficiency and capacity to tolerate difficulties and afflictions are acquired through humility and vivek. What are the advantages of tolerating afflictions? To contemplate over this, one requires knowledge. An immature ascetic does not have this ability to visualize the far-reaching consequences of anger or clemency. That is why he is said to be ignorant or lacking vision. In the Stananga Sutra are given the following 8 attributes essential for an ascetic desirous of a life of isolation: unwavering faith, endure in right direction, intelligence, wide scriptural knowledge, strength, minimum upadhi, posture, firmness and abundance of vigor. An immature ascetic does not have these virtues. Therefore, solitary life is said to be extremely harmful for him. Taditya, Samutya, these adjectives also point at Iryamati, careful movement. While walking, pay attention to walking only, look only at the path, employ wisdom only in proper movement. The commentator Churni indicates that these adjectives refer to both Acharya and Irya, whereas the commentator Tika connects them only with Acharya. For example, Tatitiya, discipline, should abandon his own dogmas and think only according to the Guru's view. Tamutya, he should be engrossed in the word of a Guru. Tapu Rakare, always give priority to Guru's order. Tasvayani, get fully involved in Guru's preaching. Tani Vesane, should be absorbed in the thoughts of the Guru. In Uttaradhyayana Sutra, the interpretation of these terms has been done with reference to Irya Samiti. The commentator Churni is also of the opinion that the chapter on Irya in Ayara Chola has been developed on the basis of this aphorism only. When a monk with fully developed intuition and knowledge, calm, guarded, endowed with knowledge, always restrained, perceives a woman tempting him, he should consider within himself, what will this person do? The greatest temptation in this world are women. This has been declared by the sage. When strongly vexed by the influence of the senses, he should eat bad food, mortify himself, stand upright, wander from village to village, take no food at all, withdraw his mind from women. First troubles, then pleasures, first pleasures, then troubles. In order to attain pleasure, one has to work for the means. After the enjoyment of the pleasures, one has to undergo punishment in hell. Thus they are the cause of quarrels. Considering this and well understanding it, one should teach oneself not to cultivate this. Thus I say, he should not speak of women, nor look at them, nor converse with them, nor claim them as his own, nor do their work. Careful in his speech and guarding his mind, he should always avoid sin. He should maintain this sagedom. Thus I say, said Sudharma Swami. Bondage of karmas and liberation. In the Sutra 164, Sudharma Swami said, even while being careful in all his activities, when a virtuous and alert ascetic, through mere touch of his body, causes pain or death to some being, he attracts karmic bondage, but only to the extent that he suffers the consequences during this birth only. But the karmic bondage acquired through careless, indisciplined activity has to be broken by expiation and austerities with vivek, awareness about shedding the karma. Thus, alertness is instrumental in shedding of karma. So say the Agam knowing sages. Elaboration. Guna Samit, endowed with virtues like Irya Samiti, to be careful in movement. This aphorism provides answer to the doubt that if some virtuous ascetic causes pain or death to beings by mere touch of his body, does he bind karmas? The commentator Tika has given 5 alternatives. An ascetic in the Shailesha state at the 14th Gunasthana does not attract any karma. This is because the bondage of karma is caused by affiliation, and that state is devoid of any affiliation. An ascetic in the Samayogi Vitaranga state, the detached having residual affinity from 11th to 13th Gunasthana, acquires the idiopathic bondage lasting just 2 samaya, the smallest fraction of time. An ascetic in the Aparamata state acquires a minimum bondage lasting just 1 antar muhurta, or a maximum bondage lasting 8 muhurta. An ascetic in the Paramatma Samayata state, disciplined ascetic 6th Gunasthana, is acquires bondage while leading life conforming to Agama. It is for a minimum period of 1 antar muhurta, or a maximum period of 8 years, and it is shed during that incarnation only. An ascetic in the Paramatma Samvaya, the state, a negligent but a disciplined ascetic 6th Gunasthana, if acquires bondage while leading life not conforming to Agamas, it is called Akuti Kriti Karma. Such karma is destroyed by atonement after consciously understanding it. This is because the karma acquired due to stupa can be destroyed only by alertness. 10 types of atonements are mentioned in Stananga Sutra. Knowing Brahmacharya. In Sutra 165, when that careful and alert ascetic endowed with mature perception, mature knowledge, calmness, right attitude, and scriptural knowledge sees women bent upon seducing him, he contemplates, what could these women do to me? All the women in this world are very pleasing. For the ascetic under the influence of village norms, lust, or carnal desire, Tirthankara Bhagavan has said, showing the way of conquering senses, that he should eat food that is not nutritious, eat less than his appetite, acquire a headstand posture, and do Karyostha Sarga, lead an itinerant life, abandon food, and discipline his mind not to get attracted to women. Its affiliation with women either attracts punishment first and contact later on, sometimes contact first and its punishment later. These carnal pleasures are sources of quarrel and cravings. Through the words of Bhagavan, he should become aware of the grim consequences of affiliation with women during this birth and later birth, and keep the soul away from the same. So I say, said Sudharma Swami. In the Sutra 166, The celibate should avoid indulgence in erotic talks, looking lewdly at women, using lewd gestures to communicate, having fondness for women, beautifying his body, indiscipline of speech, sexual talks, indiscipline of mind, and sinful activities. He should perfectly assimilate this ascetic attitude in his life. So I say. Elaboration in this preceding two aphorisms direction has been given to avoid affiliation with women, the impediment to the practice of celibacy, and to practice austerities to weaken the intensity of carnal desire. The explanatory literature has discussed in detail on the subject of libido. There are two types of libido: sunnimitic, casual, having an external cause, and animitic, non-casual, without any external cause. The libido inspired by some external source or cause is sunnimitic, and that inspired by inner sources or the inherent one is animitic. There are three sources of sunnimitic: listening to erotic speech, seeing beauty, and recalling past experiences. Animitic is also of three types, caused by fruition of karmas, food and body. In Stananga Sutra also, four instrumental causes for libido have been mentioned. Out of these, the main cause is excess of fat and blood. From this angle, some methods of controlling sexual urge have been indicated in aphorisms. To eat tasteless or plain food, to avoid vigaya or food prescribed by scriptures, eat less than one's appetite, eat once in a day, food cooked with a single ingredient and even without any salt or other condiments, and other such austerities. Practice yogic postures like headstand, tree pose. Practice kayostasarga in standing, sitting or lying postures. Lead an itinerant life, avoiding a long stay at any one place. Abandon food or observe fast and practice austerities for a long period. Avoid any affiliation or contact with women. An ascetic should give stress on practice of any or all of these methods depending on individual needs and desired benefit. One should specifically practice that method which disciplines his libido. In aphorism in 166, also there are directions to refrain from lewd talks and other such things.
यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं च यद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव महावीर नमोऽस्तु ते।
जैन आगमा ज्ञान। अंग आगमास, अचरंग आगमा।
इमेण चैव जुज्जाहि किं ते जुज्झेण वज्झो जुद्धारिहं खलु दुर्लभं यहेत्त कुशलेहिं परिन्नाविवेगे भासिये।
अचरंग सूत्र। अचरंग आगमा शास्त्र सूत्र, book 1, 5th lecture, essence of the world, Lokasara. Jambu Swamin was the disciple of Sudharman Swami, one of the 11 chief disciples, Ganadharas of Mahavira. Sudharma Swami heard the discourse from the Venerable Mahavira and narrated to his disciple Jambu Swamin. Fifth lesson. Sudharma Swami continued with Jambu Swami. He said, the greatness of Acharya, example of a lake, in the Sutra 167, he said, I gave an example. There is a large lake. It is full, filled with water or lotuses. It is located on flat land. It has clear sand, not marshy. It sustains many aquatic animals and is located the center of the source of water. In the world, see those completely by mind, speech, and body, Hermetic sages who are endowed with ultimate knowledge and wisdom and are free of sinful activities. This statement of mine is right. You should see, ensure this, awaiting the end of their life with a desire for meditative death. Those sages continue to be itinerant. So I say, elaboration. In this aphorism, the qualities of an acharya have been explained with the metaphor of a lake. The commentator Vritti has elaborated the subject by mentioning 4 types of lake. One type of lake is that where there is outflow as well as inflow of water. Second type is that where there is only outflow and no inflow. Thus I say, a lake is full of water. It is in an even plain. It is free from dust. It harbors many fish. Look, he, the teacher, stands in the stream of knowledge and is guarded in all directions. Look, there are great seers in the world, wise, awakened, free from acts, perceive the truth. From a desire of a pious end, they chose a religious life. Thus I say. Third type is that where there is only inflow and no outflow. Fourth type is that where there is neither outflow nor inflow. The first category represents Tavir Kalpi, senior and non-itinerant acharyas who give us as well as take. They give discourses of scriptural knowledge, spiritual knowledge and scriptural knowledge and code of conduct, and also observe and follow the same. The second category represents Tirthankaras who give discourses of scriptural knowledge and code of conduct but have no need to acquiring it from others. The third category represents Jinakalpi ascetics indulging in special practices in isolation who do not give discourses but continue to acquire scriptural knowledge and perfection in following the code of conduct. The fourth category represents Pratyaka Buddhas, those who get enlightened and liberated without the benefit of any discourse or guidance, who neither give nor take knowledge. An acharya is endowed with 36 virtues, 5 codes of conduct, 8 types of attainments and pure knowledge. The 8 types of attainments of an acharya are achar, shrut, that is conduct, scriptural knowledge, sharir, well-built body, vachan, speech, vachana, discourse, mati, judgment, prayoga, translating thought into action, and sangraha parigna, awareness of acquisition. He lives in a faultless and pleasant area. His passions have been pacified due to suppression of mohaniya karma, karma that tempts soul towards fondness for things. He is the protector of the 6 forms of life or the religious organization. In other words, through his preaching, he saves beings from a lowly birth like that in hell. He is at the center of the source, that is scriptural knowledge. He gives as well as acquires knowledge. Pananmata, intelligent. The commentator Churni has interpreted this as knower of the 14 Purvas, subtle canon. Prabhu Buddha, having wisdom, according to him, is a Manach Paryavagyani, one who possesses extra sensory perception and knowledge of thought process and thought forms of other beings. A proficient scholar of scriptures is also called Prabuddha. Samayanatithi Pasha. I have said you should see. The author here conveys that you should not believe just because he has stated. You should independently and impartially observe, with the help of your sharp and unbiased intellect, that only those sages can be acharyas who are hermetic in terms of sense organs, intelligent, wise, and free of sinful activity. He whose mind is always wavering does not reach abstract contemplation. Some bound by worldly ties or followers understands the truth. Some who are not bound are followers. How should he not despond who among us followers is a non-follower? But that is truth beyond doubt, what has been declared by the Jinas. Whatever a faithful, well-disposed man, or entering the order thought to be true, that may afterwards appear to him true. What he thought to be true, that may afterwards appear to him untrue. What he thought to be untrue, that may afterwards appear to him true. What he thought to be untrue, that may afterwards appear to him true. What he thinks to true, that may on consideration appear to him true, whether it is true or untrue. What he thinks to be untrue, that may on consideration appear to him untrue, whether it is true or untrue. But he who reflects should say unto him who does not reflect, consider it to be true. Thus the connection, the continuity of sins is broken. Regard this as the course of the zealous one who stands in obedience to the spiritual guide. In this point, do not show yourself a fool. Strong faith in truth. In the Sutra 168, a skeptic soul does not attain the state of samadhi, profound meditation. Some accomplished in knowledge of fundamentals follow the acharya. Some non-accomplished also follow the acharya. Living amidst these followers, how is it possible that one who does not follow the acharya will not feel disturbed and disappointed in context of discipline? As it would be unto thee, so it is with him whom thou intended to kill. As it would be unto thee, so it is with him whom thou intendest to tyrannize over. As it would be unto thee, so it is with him whom thou intendest to torment. In the same way it is with him whom thou intendest to punish and to drive away. The righteous man who lives up to these sentiments does therefore neither kill nor cause others to kill. He should not intentionally cause the same punishment for himself. Sutra 169. Only that is true and without any doubt which has been propagated by Tirthankaras. That knowledge of fundamentals which is easily acquired is called Shukhadhigam, easy to acquire. That which is acquired with difficulty is Durdhagam. A doubt arises in the mind of a disciple about difficult to understand concepts. It is explained here that a disciple whose mind is poisoned by doubt and who wavers due to skepticism does not attain clarity with respect to righteousness, knowledge and conduct in spite of explanation by the acharya. His mind remains wavering. The self is the knower, the experiencer, and the knower is the self. That through which one knows is the self. With regard to this, to know if the self is established, such is he who maintains the right doctrine of self. This subject has truly been explained. Thus I say, Sudharman continued. Elaborating Vichikshata, the commentator Tika says, doubt can be with regard to all the three subjects, namely knowledge, perception and conduct. For example, is the knowledge compiled in the scriptures true or false? Am I worthy or not? Are the 9 fundamentals or the 6 substances true? Are the Aryans and Siddhants real or imaginary just for the purpose of invoking fear in our mind? Would all these harsh austerities, discipline and conduct of 5 great woes bear any fruits, or it is just a worthless suffering? These and other such doubts make an aspirant mind unstable and incapable of profound meditation. This aphorism is the foundation on which the edifice of profound meditation can be raised by removing the despondency born out of skepticism. Samadhi, profound meditation. This word has 4 meanings: satisfaction or contentment of the mind, removal of doubt, mental concentration, the right or perfect state of mind, represented by right perception, knowledge, conduct. There are numerous interpretations of Samadhi found in various agamas. Some are to remain stable on the path to liberation, religious meditation in the form of abandoning attachment and aversion, good health, happiness and health of mind, freedom from diseases, yoga, the process of acquiring right perception and getting liberated, mental concentration, pious attitude. In the 9th chapter of Dashavaikalika Sutra, detailed description of 4 types of samadhi is available. Vinaya Samadhi, Shrut Samadhi, Tapas Samadhi and Achar Samadhi. The Sutra 170. An ascetic having faith in the tenets of the jina, following right conduct and observing right discipline, believes about some behavior or concept that it is right and in reality also it is right. It is right but in reality is not right. It is not right but in reality it is right. It is not right and is reality also it is not right. He who believes it to be right, whether in reality it is right or wrong, effectively due to his impartial attitude, absence of attachment and aversion, it is right. But for him who believes it to be wrong, whether in reality it is right or wrong, due to his biased attitude, it is wrong. A man with impartial attitude should tell to one having biased attitude to attain rightness, be impartial. This way, through practice of impartiality, the ambiguity of right and wrong is removed. You should observe the progress of the active in discipline and dull in discipline. You should never join the ranks of the ignorant, always be sagacious. All the Shramanas cannot be endowed with the capacity of direct perception, knowledge acquired by soul without the help of sense organ. Neither are they at the same level of knowledge. The direction of attitudes and thoughts is also not same for all. In case of concepts that are beyond the grasp of sense organs, they can rely on the aphorism, Tameva Sacham, while understanding and accepting truth. But how to decide what is right and or wrong with regard to tangible things and concepts? This is explained in aphorism 164. First of all right and wrong has been discussed with reference to the time of initiation and the later period. Some ascetics are full of right faith at the time of initiation, but later, due to various reasons, they become lax and lose right faith. There are 4 combinations of this. After that, it is discussed from the ultimate and mundane viewpoint. Some fundamentals and conduct may appear to be right from mundane viewpoint, but could be wrong from the ultimate viewpoint. This also has 4 combinations. The sages have given a yardstick of judgment for these 4 combinations. When an ascetic endowed with purity of attitude, impartiality and equanimity, and who is committed to seek purity and truth, accepts a thing, person or behavior as right or wrong from mundane viewpoint, it indeed is right or wrong irrespective of the fact that it is otherwise in the eyes of those endowed with direct perception. Veheya Uttapreksha, to observe with a sincere attitude, impartiality, truth-seeking intellect and purity and simplicity of mind. Gati has 2 meanings, condition or state, and place or genius of rebirth. Here Sandhi means pursuit of right perception or faith. The broad scope of ahimsa. In the Sutra 171, O soul, that which you consider worth destroying is your own self. That which you consider worth disciplining is your own self. That which you consider worth harming is your own self. That which you consider worth subjugating is your own self. That which you consider worth killing is your own self. A sagacious man is simple-minded. He leads an enlightened and alert life. That is why he neither destroys something himself nor causes others to do so. The consequences of one's action have to be suffered by his own self. Therefore, do not nurture desire to destroy anything. Elaboration: Tumam si nama satya eva. It is like your own self. The purpose of using this phrase is to convey the sameness of experience of pleasure or pain in 2 different souls. This phrase propagates the non-duality of soul. In other words, all souls are equal. It conveys the being that you want to hurt in any way will feel the same way as you feel when someone hurts you. It has another initiation when you want to cause damage to someone, you are not in fact causing damage to him, but to your own good attitude. Thus, this tendency to hurt is in a way hurting the self. Anusamaya na parinam. You will have to suffer yourself. Here, Anusamaya means similar experience. The way you have caused the other being to experience pain, likewise your soul will experience pain or suffer pain. Soul, the knower. In the Sutra 172, Sudharma Swami said, that which is soul is the knower, that which is knower is the soul. That through which one knows is soul. Through the activity of knowing or cognition comes the awareness or recognition of soul. This believer in soul having right activity or belief or properly following the ascetic conduct is said to be a profound knower of truth. So I say, GIAC Vinaya, that which is soul is the knower. These phrases present the substance and attributes of the soul. Soul is the knower or substance and knowledge is its attribute. Here the non-duality of knowledge and soul has been shown. As knowledge is the attribute of soul, therefore the duality of soul and knowledge has also been shown. Substance and attributes are neither absolutely separate nor absolutely one. Attributes resides in substance and is its part, thus they are inseparable. In terms of container and contained, they are separate also.
यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं च यद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव महावीर नमोऽस्तु ते.
Jaina Agama Gyan. Anga Agamas, Acharanga Agama.
इमेण चैव जुज्जाहि किं ते जुज्झेण वज्झो जुद्धारिहं खलु दुर्लभं यहेत्त कुशलेहिं परिण्णाविवेगे भासिये.
Acharanga Sutra. Acharanga Agama Shastra Sutra, Book 1, 5th lecture, Essence of the World, Lokasara. Jambu Swamin was the disciple of Sudharma Swami, one of the 11 chief disciples, Ganadharas of Mahavira. Sudharma Swami heard the discourse from the Venerable Mahavira and narrated to his disciple Jambu Swamin. Sixth lesson. Sudharman continued the directions. In the Sutra 173, Sudharman Swami said, some people go against order and some are lazy in following the order. The philosophy of the accomplished Tirthankara is that this activity on wrong path and inactivity on right path should not happen in your life. An aspirant should employ his vision on the philosophy of Tirthankara, accept liberation as defined in his philosophy, get fully absorbed in it, indulge in all activities keeping him as ideal, draw inspiration from his remembrance, focus attention on him and follow him only. Only he has embraced truth fundamentals, who has subdued afflictions or vitiating karmas. Only he is independent, who is not overwhelmed by hurdles. He who is great, having only few karmas, his mind does not wander away from discipline. Theories of various other philosophers and religions should be understood, examined on the basis of the tenets of the omniscient Tirthankaras. Also, the essence of the tenets can be understood with the help of memories from last birth, seeking answer from Tirthankaras, or listening to some great and sublime and sagacious Acharya. Some not instructed in the true law make only a show of good conduct. Some, though instructed, have no good conduct. Let that not be your case. That is the doctrine of the clever one. Adopting the Acharya's views, imitating his indifferences for the outer world, making him the guide and advisor in all one's matter, sharing his abode, conquering sinfulness, one sees the truth unconquered, one should be one's own master, having no reliance on anything in the world. He who is great and withdraws his mind from the outer world should learn the teaching of the Tirthankaras. Through the teaching of the Acharya, by his own innate knowledge, or through the instruction of the highest, or having heard from others. A wise man should not break the commandment. Examining all wrong doctrines from all sides and in all respects, one should clearly understand and reflect them. Knowing the delight of this world, circumspect and restrained, one should lead the life of an ascetic. Desiring liberation, a hero should, through the sacred four, ever be victorious. Thus I say, the current of sin is said to come from above, from below, and from the sides. These have been declared to be the currents through which, look, there is sinfulness. Examining the whirlpool, a man versed in the sacred flow should keep off from it, leaving the world to avoid the current of sin. Such a great man, free from acts, knows and sees the truth, examining pleasures. He does not desire them, knowing whence we come and whither we go. He leaves the road to birth and death, rejoicing in the glorious. All sounds recoil thence, where speculation has no room, nor does the mind penetrate there. The saint knows well that which is without support. The liberated is not long nor small, nor round nor triangular, nor quadrangular, nor circular. He is not black nor blue, nor red nor green nor white, neither of good nor bad smell, not bitter nor pungent, nor astringent nor sweet, neither rough nor soft, neither heavy nor light, neither cold nor hot, neither harsh nor smooth. He is without body, without resurrection, without contact. He is not feminine, nor masculine, nor neuter. He perceives, he knows, but there is no analogy whereby to know the nature of the liberated soul. Its essence is without form. There is no condition of the unconditioned. There is no sound, no color, no smell, no taste, no touch, nothing of that kind. Thus I say, said Sudharman Swami. In the explanation, Savattana and Nirvatana, to make an effort and not to make an effort. These are technical terms from Agamas. Explain these, commentator Vritti says that aspirants are of two types: those not following order, tenants, and those who procrastinate the following order. The word upasthana means to be ready to act or to make an effort. Anjana means to go against the tenets of Tirthankaras and follow one's own discretion or indulge in misconduct, assuming it to be right conduct. Those who are slaves of carnal desires pursue the opposite path. Procrastinators are those who understand the purpose, importance of benefits and tenets of, but do not pursue the religious path shown by Tirthankaras because of lethargy, stupor, doubt, misunderstanding, ailing condition, dumbness, and lack of self-confidence. Pursuing the wrong path and stupor in pursuing the right path, both are to be avoided. The philosophy of Tirthankaras is lethargy in wrong path and action in right path. Abhyuha, to be overwhelmed. The commentator Vritti elaborates, he should overcome afflictions. Torments are four ghati karmas, karmas that have a vitiating effect upon the qualities of soul. Special powers of the physical dimension, yogic attainment, or special abilities are also counted among the impeding factors in spiritual practices. To depend on these is to make a soul weak and dependent. In the same way, to expect continued help from others also makes a soul dependent and weak. A sincere aspirant does not depend on others or help, praise or prestige coming from others. Bhagavan Mahavir has advised every seeker in the field of religion and philosophy to pursue independent thinking. He has asked to examine his tenets as well as those of others, as ascetic should first understand the tenets he follows and then examine tenets of others. The precondition is that while examining he should be completely impartial, balanced and equanimous. When he examines with impartiality the schools of thought of others and his own, the superiority of the philosophy of the detached will automatically be revealed on him. Sutra 174. An accomplished person should not transgress the directions, the preaching or order of Tirthankaras. He should understand the truth, righteousness after proper contemplation. He should move about employing the process of exploration of the self to his contemplation about this righteousness. A brave ascetic perfected through practice of discipline should pursue the path shown in Agamas. So I say, methods of renouncing attachment. In the Sutra 175, there are sources above, there are sources below, and there are sources in the middle. These sources are said to be the sources of inflow of karmas. Know this, that through these sources is born the desire of affiliation in the being. Contemplating on the mental sources in the form of attachment, aversion, passions, and mundane pleasures, the scholar followers of Agama should be rid of them. In the Sutra 176, the aspirant who renounces the world specifically for the purpose of removing the sources of inflow of karmas for attachment for mundane pleasure becomes free of karmas, the vitiating karmas, and has direct perception and knowledge of the world. It is because of the attachment for mundane pleasure that a being takes birth or dies in this world. Knowing through awareness, a sage does not desire mundane pleasures. What are the sources in three directions as conveyed by the phrase Udam Sota? The commentator Vritti explains Srota means the sources of inflow of karma. These are located in three directions or the three worlds. The sources above are the cravings for the carnal pleasures provided by divine damsels or divine pleasures in the celestial vehicles. In the same way, the sources below are craving for carnal pleasures available with the Bhavanapati, dwelling in abodes, gods. The sources in the middle are the carnal pleasures related to Vyantara, gods, humans, and animals. An aspirant should always be careful of these sources. These sources should be considered as attachment itself and should always be observed carefully with the help of deep contemplation. The process of bondage of karmas is terminated when these sources are closed. The karma-less state is attained when the bondage of karmas is completely shattered. The author of this scripture has indicated when free of karmas he has direct perception and knowledge of the world. When we ponder over the wider scope of the word Srota, it becomes clear that this word has also been used for parts of the body. Acharya Mahaprajna, giving resources of Shushruta Samhita, has said that it mentions about 12 sources in the human body. The sources above are 7 in number, and they are one mouth, 2 ears, 2 eyes, and 2 holes of the nose. The sources in the middle are 2 breasts, and the sources below are penis, vagina, and anus. Being instruments of pleasure, all these parts of the human body become sources of inflow of karmas. The form of liberated soul. In the Sutra 177, the ascetic, stable and groused in the path of liberation, crosses the vicious circle of life and death. All vowels fail to explain the form or bliss of that liberated soul. It cannot be explained by logic, even intellect cannot grasp it. It is in the form of a aura, not tarnished by the dirt of karmas. It is devoid of any foundation in the form of body, and it is knower of every field. In other words, the embodiment of pure knowledge. In the pure Siddha soul is neither long nor short. It is neither a circle nor a triangle, or a quadrilateral or a sphere. It is neither black nor blue, or red or yellow or white. It neither has fragrance nor stink. It is neither hot nor bitter, or pungent, or sour, or sweet. It is neither harsh nor soft, neither heavy nor light, neither cold nor hot, and neither smooth nor rough. It has nobody, it does not take birth, and is free of affiliation. It is neither female nor male, or a neuter. It is knowledge personified, all knowing, and awareness personified, a pulsating spirit. There is no metaphor that can explain it. It has a formless existence. It is beyond status. There is no status that can explain it. It is neither sound nor form, or aroma, or taste, or touch. It is just that, so I say. The central theme of Acharanga is the principle of existence of soul. There are two categories of soul, with a body and having imposture of karmas, and without a body and free of karmas. A soul infested with karmas resides in a body that is visible. Therefore, it is logically and rationally acceptable. It takes birth and dies also. It can be recognized as male, female, and has other attributes as well. In the preceding aphorisms, the method of shedding karmas through blocking the inflow of karmas and austerities has been explained. On being free of karmas and body, a soul becomes formless. Aphorism 177 describes this formless soul. Giving reference to Upanishads, Acharya Atmaramji says that in Kathopanishad, a soul is said to be without sound, without touch, without form, and without decay. In the commentary Tika, the word has been interpreted as aura-like, or radiant, or knowledge personified, and also as pure and devoid of the dirt of karma and solitary. Both the interpretations convey the same idea. Asanga means not a trace of attachment. The genders female, male, and neuter are called by fondness. In that state, there is total absence of mohaniya karma. Therefore, it is neither a male nor female. Prajna means to know completely, and Sangya means to know rightly. Here is the end of the 6th lecture called Essence of the World.
यदक्षरपदभ्रष्टं मात्राहीनं च यद्भवेत् तत्सर्वं क्षम्यतां देव महावीर नमोऽस्तुते।